Good morning. We're going to get, folks, if I can, thank you. Yeah, we're going to get started. We're running a little late. We want to make sure that the mayor's here to deliver his message on time. Folks, if I can ask everyone to please be quiet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The members will take their seats, and we clearly have a quorum, and we'll get started. To give our invocation this morning, folks, really, no, seriously, I really do need, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes the Reverend Donald Moore of Mount Carmel Baptist Church. He is here today as the guest of Councilman Green. I would ask all members, guests, and visitors to please rise. Pastor.
Let us pray. Dear wise and loving Father, thank you for this day. Lord, I come praying for our mayor as he continues to lead and direct this city. Lord, we now enter collectively in prayer, asking for your continued love and guidance as these elected officials assemble here on today to conduct the matters of the city of Philadelphia. We come seeking your blessing on the tasks that are before them as they navigate through the process of making decisions. And Lord, we ask that you walk with them as they walk among your people. Grant each member represented here clear insight, deliberation, and wisdom as they make balanced and impartial choices that will impact the day-to-day lives of the residents and those who work in the city. Equip this council with the eyes and hearts for humanity to know that at the end of every meeting and political decision is a human being who is depending on the council to think wisely, to serve humbly, and to act justly. Oh God, I ask that you give this council members a sympathetic ear to hear and listen to the voices of those marginalized in the city. And I ask that this body of elected public servants, once they have heard the voices of those marginalized, those still fighting for equality and equity, those who are still in need of a living wage that affords them the ability to live decently in the city, those that have been forgotten by decades of social economic classism, that these officials become the authentic voice to make a difference. Lord, I conclude this prayer by requesting that you continue to transform, heal, and make a difference in this city through this city council. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor, for those inspiring words. Council, be at ease. Thank you again, Pastor, for those inspiring words. Our next order of business. Before we start, I would ask that if anyone has a device, cell phone, or any other type of device that makes any noise, if you can please turn it off or turn it on the airplane mode or whatever mode you need to turn it on to not ring. Thank you. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 28, 2019, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 28, 2019 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 28, 2019 stand approved. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the majority, there are no requests of leave of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair now recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Republicans, there are no requests for leave of absence.
Chair thanks the gentleman. At this time, I would like to dispense with the regular order of business and really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come down on this very special day to witness your government in action in its fullest form, the mayor's budget address. We hope that today is a knowledgeable one, but more importantly, a pleasurable one, so much so that you come back again. So again, thank you for being here. Today, we have no presentations for obvious reasons, and I know some people might be a little upset about that, but we'll be back next week. Our next order of business is communications, and the chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the mayor to the chief clerk. And Mr. Decker, will you please read those messages?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, pursuant to Sections 4604 and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the Council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills. Bill numbers 190001, 190016, 190058, 190061, and 190062. And I am pleased to advise you that on March 6, 2019, I signed all the bills which were passed by Council at its session on February 21, 2019, except Bill number 181103, which I am returning without my signature. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2937 North 8th Street, located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a resolution providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia of a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2020 through 2024, and incorporating proposed changes with respect to fiscal year 2019, which is to be submitted by the mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, and an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2020 through 2025 inclusive, and an ordinance to adopt the fiscal 2020 capital budget, and an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2020, and an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Wage and Net Profits Tax by revising certain tax rates, and an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into an agreement between the City of Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to act as the city's agent for marketing, competitive bidding, sale, and development, as applicable, of certain city-owned properties. And an ordinance authorizing and approving certain additional projects designated by the City Director of Finance to be financed by the Philadelphia Municipal Authority with remaining proceeds of said authority's City Service Agreement Revenue Bonds, Series 2014B, tax exempt. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to convey to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Tacony Creek, Levick Street, Milner Street, and Barnett Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communications?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our messages, and we will now move to the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Good morning, Mr. President. I offer
Morning.
one resolution this morning.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A privilege resolution honoring and recognizing Tezera Wilkins, Melissa Sui, and Tanika Shere for their selection to the Google Podcast Creator Program.
In today's calendar, chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I offer one bill and one resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 21st Street, Oxford Street, 20th Street, Jefferson Street, and Ridge Avenue.
For the committee.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
And that will be on next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf For the City of Philadelphia, I offer 4 bills, 1 resolution, the budget.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to adopt the capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2020 through 2025 inclusive.
For the committee.
And an ordinance to adopt the fiscal 2020 capital budget.
For the committee.
And an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2020.
Refer to committee.
And an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Wage and Net Profits Tax by revising certain tax rates.
And that will also be referred to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia of a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2020 through 2024 and incorporating proposed changes with respect to fiscal year 2019, which is to be submitted by the mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority.
And that resolution will be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, on your behalf, I have 1 bill.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Title IX of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions by adding a new chapter entitled Fair Chance Housing, prohibiting the use of the criminal history by landlords within the City of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Councilman, I think that's co-sponsored by all members. This is a part of the anti-poverty.
For the record, it
Initiative.
is sponsored by all members of council
All right.
to deal with the anti-poverty effort
Thank
of
you.
this body.
We got to get a plug in wherever we can. That will be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. On your behalf, I have one of the bills as part of narrowing the gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Chapter 16-400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Vacant and Surplus Properties by requiring affordable housing for certain dispositions.
And that will be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 1 privileged resolution, a very important one, and 1 bill on your behalf, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 3900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Property Licenses and Owner Accountability to require all rental listing services to record and report rental license information for each rental unit listing located within the City of Philadelphia.
And will be referred to committee.
And a privilege resolution honoring and celebrating Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Nick Foles for his accomplishments on the field, his historic place in Eagles history, and his contributions to Philadelphia.
Oh, okay, that'll be on today's calendar. You think we can convince him to stay? No, he's already gone? He's gone, huh? Went for the money, I don't blame him. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I have 1 privilege resolution, and on your behalf, I have 1 bill as part of the Council's Historic Anti-Poverty Initiative, Narrowing the Gap.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 3900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Property Licenses and Owner Accountability by adding and amending certain definitions, authorizing the establishment of the Low-Income Tenant Legal Defense Fund, and requiring certain documents in actions for eviction or collection of rents.
And that will be referred to committee.
And a privilege resolution honoring and commemorating the life and legacy of Ken Durstein, a dedicated Philadelphia School District teacher and resilient public education advocate.
That will be on today's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Thank you, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one bill on your behalf as part of the anti-poverty legislation, and one additional bill.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 19-2600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes by adding provisions intended to preserve and expand the provision of affordable rental housing to Philadelphia residents, including, but not limited to, excluding from the definition of receipts a portion of the rent received by a landlord for the rental of certain affordable housing units, and excluding certain of the net income attributable to such excluded receipts from the definition of net income.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. That bill will be referred to committee.
And an ordinance authorizing Michael Myers, doing business as Fill It Up Again, to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 436 East Girard Avenue.
And that will also be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions this week.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. Offer one privilege resolution, co-sponsored by Council members Derek Green, Cindy Bass, and Blondell Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution recognizing and honoring the 2018 winners of PHL Live Center Stage.
And that will be on today's calendar. Thank you. And our next order of business will be our reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee for a report from the Committee on Law and Government.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Law and Government reports 3 bills and 2 resolutions with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Law and Government, to which is referred Bill Number 180818, entitled An Ordinance Providing for the Submission to the Qualified Electors of the City of Philadelphia of the proposal set forth in a resolution approved by Council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter relating to the mandatory establishment and hiring of a new class of employees within the civil service system to be designated as Public Safety Enforcement Officers, setting forth the duties of such employees and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice and to make arrangements for the special election. And Bill Number 190083, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 20-1000 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Political Contributions and Expenditures, to add and make changes to provisions regarding campaign contributions, contributions to transition and inauguration committees, and campaign finance disclosures. And Bill Number 190102, entitled An Ordinance Providing for the Submission to the Qualified Electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter calling on the General Assembly to provide for a decent living wage as approved by resolution of the City Council. And Resolution Number 180830, entitled A Resolution Proposing an Amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter providing for the mandatory establishment and hiring of a new class of employees within the civil service system to be designated as Public Safety Enforcement Officers. And Resolution Number 190115, entitled A Resolution Proposing an Amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter calling on the General Assembly to provide for a decent living wage and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bills and resolutions to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 180818, 190083, and 190102.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 180818, 190083, and 190102. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Resolutions number 180830 and 190115 will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. That concludes our reports on committee, and we will now have consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had its first reading. They will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. The chief clerk will please read any other bills on our first reading calendar.
Bill number 181063, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Philadelphia Gas Works by Philadelphia Facilities Management Corporation, Philadelphia Municipal Authority, and the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into certain transactions and contracts regarding a liquefied natural gas project on property and facilities owned by the City of Philadelphia and operated by the Philadelphia Gas Works, including certain leases and licenses and contracts related to the purchase of natural gas, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. The chair agrees. This bill will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. The chair now recognizes Councilman Heenan for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills that are on our final passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up for second reading and final passage calendars today. Bill numbers 190138, 190139, 190141, 190142, 190145, 181005-A, 180515, 190001, 190016, 190058, and 190006, in addition to 190001. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you, Councilman. Before calling up these bills and resolutions for consideration, we'll have our public comment session. Our public comment session will go as follows. If you have an interest in testifying on a bill or resolution that is on the final passage calendar today, if you have not already done so, you may sign up at the table to my left. When your name is called, you will go to the middle of the chambers. There's a podium with a device on it. When the light turns green on that device, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we'd ask that you please adhere to our guidelines and conclude your remarks. You will be given 3 minutes to speak on public comment. We appreciate you and your anticipated cooperation on these guidelines. Mr. Decker, please call the first name.
Joe Danahill, commenting on 181063 and 190141.
Good morning.
Toronto, as such, requires immediate action remedy. Every week, council, mayor, governor, and others transfer private property to the government, probably illegally. The U.S. Attorney General McSwain correctly identified that failure to perform a known duty or task is illegal and causes great harm. Military people know this action as treason. Over 90 times in this very room, I have decreed government officials to act and have suffered greatly from their failure to perform a known duty or task. Council chambers are usually occupied by the Sheriff Department. The Armed Sheriff's Department is a law enforcement official in the Commonwealth with the power to arrest judges, government officials, and government employees. The Sheriff's Department witnessed or has witnessed in their presence, in my case, over 90 times, a conspiracy to deny numerous God-given rights, including, among others unnamed, Title 42 PACS 8902, conduct which imperils my personal security or my private property rights. I decree to the Sheriff Department to perform their duty to arrest every council person and staff. The constitutions require immediate remedy of this breach of law, breach of clause, breach of fiduciary duty. Your oath of office requires you to act or face prison. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987, 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 2381, 2384. PA Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 through 28. 26 PA CSA 703, 705, 708, 709, 711, 712, 713, 716, 902, and other laws listed in SCOTUS 158965, 141330, 144056 appear violated. I call on the federal and Commonwealth governments to perform their constitutional obligations to investigate and prosecute all involved in the theft and illegal deed transfer of my home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue. The denial of God-given 42 U.S.C. 1982 property rights for 25 years is egregious, extraordinary, and oath-violating, and requires immediate remedy. A just government must obey the rule of law. This color of law government must have its charter to govern revoked until a constitutionally compliant government is installed. Public servants cannot refuse a sworn duty to act any more than a fireman can refuse to fight a fire. The sovereign people require oath, constitutional law be enforced, and jail is required for all who violate oath, constitutional law. I remind council, it takes a lot of cooperation to create and allow this monumental corruption.
Thank you very much for your speech.
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed with the calendar, I would like to recognize, obviously, our special guests here from the administration. I want to thank all of you being here, in addition to which we have our sheriff, see if any other independently elected officials, and our school board, both chair and superintendent. I also would like to thank our leadership team members from the General Assembly, Representative Jordan Harris in leadership, and Representative Jay Dalk, a former member of this team in City Council. Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate you so much for all the great work you do up in Harrisburg. We will now proceed with our calendar. And Mr. Decker, please read the title of 190-138.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 44th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. And that resolution 190-138 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-139.
A resolution declaring the City of Philadelphia a hidden hero city in recognition of the important work and vital role of military and veteran caregivers in the city.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. And resolution 190-139 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-141.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 250 West Thayer Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
And Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Move for its adoption.
Thank you. Councilwoman, you'll call for a motion? Or?
Yes, I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of 190-141, say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-141 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 191-142.
A resolution calling on the state legislature and governor to recognize the authority and efforts of Pittsburgh City Council members to protect citizens from acts of gun violence through common sense gun legislation following the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue.
Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
President, move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution 190-142 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-145.
A resolution urging the Pennsylvania General Assembly to grant more local control for the operation of the right-of-way, the installation of roadway features to effectively enforce speed limits, and the implementation of policies that discourage dangerous driving.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-145 is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 181-005A.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, 3rd Street, Hunting Park Avenue, 2nd Street, Sedgley Avenue, Ontario Street, Hutchinson Street, 9th Street, and Winghawking Street.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Togberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 180-515.
An ordinance amending Section 14303 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Common Procedures and Requirements to amend requirements regarding neighborhood notice and meetings.
This bill having been heard on 2 separate days, the question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Toppenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-001.
An ordinance to amend the master plan for Drexel University and to approve the proposed addition to 101 North 34th Street.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. The majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-016.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Stenton Avenue, Chelton Avenue, Broad Street, Windrum Avenue, Belfield Avenue, and Worcester Street.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-058.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Burke Street, Memphis Street, Wilt Street, and Tulip Street.
This bill hadn't been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes 17, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-006.
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2019 from the General Fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the Grants Revenue Fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, to the General Fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions.
This bill having been heard on 2 separate days, the question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution honoring and recognizing Tezero Wilkins, Melissa Sui, and Tanika Shere for their selection to the Google Podcast Creator Program, introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and celebrating Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Nick Foles for his accomplishments on the field, his historic place in Eagles history, and his contributions to Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and commemorating the life and legacy of Ken Durstein, a dedicated Philadelphia School District teacher and resilient public education advocate, introduced by Councilwoman Gim.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring the 2018 winners of PHL Live Center Stage, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Before we move into our next session of our council, I would like to take the moment to recognize our friends and family members from our municipal unions. I think it's appropriate that we do this prior to the mayor. All right. Because at the end of the day, without them, we can't do what we do. So I just want to thank them so much for being here. Okay. You guys ready? Ready, Jim? Okay. The time has come for us to consider the mayor's presentation of his annual budget. The Philadelphia Home Rule Charter states that the mayor shall submit to council no later than 90 days before the end of the fiscal year his operating budget, message, and proposed operating budget ordinance for the ensuing fiscal year. At this time, the mayor shall submit to council the recommended capital program and capital budget as the city received from the City Planning Commission to the extent approved by the mayor. I now appoint the following committee to escort the mayor into the council chambers: Councilman Heenan, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Greenlee, Councilman Taubenberger, and Councilman O. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to introduce the Mayor of the City of Philadelphia, Mayor James F. Kenney.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. And I want to thank you, Council President Clark, and members of City Council for inviting me to speak today. It's always great to be back in this chamber where I spent so many years. I want to give a special mention to my friends, Blondell Reynolds Brown and Bill Greenlee, who I've had the pleasure of calling colleagues and who I will continue to call on for advice as they move on soon to the next phase of their lives. I know they'll still be working hard through the end of this year, but can we give them a round of applause for their years of service? Thank you. Philadelphia, as you know, has been glowing in the national spotlight of late. Another postseason run by the Eagles, an impressive young Flyers team, and a Sixers team that is the talk of the NBA. And of course, in the past week, a baseball superstar who could have gone anywhere chose Philadelphia, not just to play here, but to make it his home and to raise his family. Welcome to Philly, Bryce Harper, and we're pleased to see the first move is to go trout fishing. It feels like yesterday when I stood here in 2016 and proposed our administration's first budget and five-year plan. I'm proud of what we've achieved so far on vital issues like education, public safety, growing jobs, and increasing equity in our neighborhoods. Today I present the fiscal year 2020 budget and the five-year plan that will help us achieve even more. Before I do, though, I ask you to indulge me for a few minutes. Time travel with me to 2024, and let's ask ourselves a simple question. What can we, the city of Philadelphia, be in 5 years? Join me in imagining what our city has the potential to look like, feel like, and offer to our residents, workers, and visitors 5 years from now. When I think about our future, as I often do, the first thing that comes to mind will not surprise you. It's the foundation of what makes any small town or large city great, a high-performing public school system. In 2024, every 5-year-old starts their first day of kindergarten ready to learn because they participated in a quality pre-K program. Every child has the opportunity to attend a great public school in their own neighborhood. Whether it's district-run, charter, magnet, CTE, or special admit, parents and caregivers know their children are receiving a world-class education in a safe, nurturing learning environment. Our schools have the necessary resources to ensure students read on grade level by the time they enter 4th grade and then graduate on time, ready for college and career. In 2024, more schools have been modernized to create spaces for play, creativity, and learning. And they are thriving school communities offering enriching after-school programs and engaging residents of all ages. Our schools attract diverse educators because our teachers and administrators are supported, trained, and paid fairly. In 2024, Philadelphia has a strong and growing economy with lower unemployment, increased job opportunities, a higher median income, and fewer Philadelphians living in poverty. We've attracted and retained small businesses and large corporations alike. These companies chose to relocate, stay, and grow here because of all that our talent, research, universities, location, affordability, and rich quality of life have to offer their employees and companies. We have a skilled workforce that's qualified for these new family-sustaining jobs in growing industries. And in 2024, more college grads choose to stay in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, because Philadelphia is where they can build a successful career, set down roots, and one day raise a family if they choose. Our thriving tourism industry continues to set records, and Philadelphia remains a destination for large-scale events, day trips, and everything in between. Our investments in transportation and infrastructure have paid off, evidenced by streets that are in good repair, roadways that are less congested, and public transportation that connects Philadelphians from all corners of our city to economic opportunities. In 2024, our treasured neighborhood parks, recreation centers, and libraries are well maintained. Residents benefit from quality programs and events year-round. And as neighborhoods are developing, longtime residents share in their community success because we've invested in housing affordability. We've expanded opportunities for minority, women, and disabled-owned enterprises who are doing more business with the city than ever, so that the companies that receive city contracts truly mirror what Philadelphia looks like. In 2024, Philadelphians feel safe because the city is safe. Our overall crime rates are at the lowest they've been in nearly half a century, and we continue to experience a decline of violent crime. Vacant properties that once attracted crime and contributed to blight have been redeveloped and support thriving communities. In 2024, Vision Zero has successfully reduced traffic fatalities, and drivers, bikers, and pedestrians respectfully share our roads. Kensington is no longer known as the epicenter of the opioid crisis. Instead, the nation is learning from the Philadelphia Resilience Project about how we collectively fought and conquered the epidemic that claimed the lives of over 1,200 people at its peak in 2017. Far fewer people experience homelessness because residents have access to a broader continuum of housing resources and a range of affordable housing options. In 2024, after dramatically and safely reducing our prison population and recidivism through criminal justice reforms, we have become a national model for building a more fair, equitable, and just society. And we're investing funds once spent on incarceration into other services that everyone can enjoy, like cleaner and smoother streets, great public spaces, education, job training, and the other core services that improve the quality of our lives. In this Philadelphia of 2024, our government is more efficient and effective. We've earned the trust of taxpayers because we are smart and responsible with their money. Our fiscal situation is strong with a healthier pension fund and impressive bond ratings that minimize our borrowing costs. Smart tax reforms coupled with improved tax collections and expanded payment relief programs have benefited taxpayers who face legitimate hardships while also contributing to our overall fiscal health. Antiquated internal systems are long gone, and new tech-based tools streamline processes, resulting in increased efficiency and better services for our residents. I could keep going and going. If there's one thing Philadelphia is not short on, it is goals and aspirations. But the truth is, everything I just described, this grand 5-year vision, is attainable if we continue to work together as we've done over the last 3 years. It's why we've already made significant progress on creating great schools in every neighborhood. The plan includes $1.2 billion in general fund contributions to the school district. That's over $700 million more than would have gone to the district without the commitment we all made last year. Let me repeat that. The city is providing $1.2 billion, over $700 million in new funding to ensure the school district continues its positive momentum and never again is forced to make devastating cuts that put our children's future in jeopardy. We did this because these are all of our kids, no one else's. And it's incumbent upon us to do what is right by them so they can reach their full potential. This past year brought a major milestone. We returned our schools to local control for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Our new school board, under the amazing leadership of President Joyce Wilkerson, is making great strides. The board established committees to focus on important issues like student achievement, finance and facilities, and parent and community engagement. They appointed student board representatives, and they are establishing a parent and community advisory committee because, as Council Members Reynolds Brown and Gim have often said, representation matters. These additional voices ensure that the most important stakeholders, our students and parents, have their voices heard. These actions and the hard work of Superintendent Height and the district employees are already paying off. Moody's Investor Services assigned an investment grade rating for the school district for the first time since 1977. Now the district outlook is stable as a result of new revenues and strong district management, an upgrade that can save the district millions of future borrowing. And last month, the district celebrated 3 consecutive years of improvement among both district-led and charter schools citywide. More students have strong reading skills and are graduating on time. More classrooms are modernized, and the district is investing more than $1 billion in capital improvements. In addition, all schools now have counselors and nurses, and all elementary schools have instrumental music and art classes, as Councilmember Blackwell has long fought for. Schools are expanding computer science education so our kids are trained for technology-based jobs, as Councilmember Dom has urged, and they're investing in literacy and math coaches for our hardworking teachers. I'd like to acknowledge Superintendent Dr. William Height for his leadership and commitment to our student success. Since he launched the district's action plan 4 years ago, we have twice as many high-performing schools and 50% fewer lower-performing schools, and I think he deserves a round of applause. I want to tell you, Dr. Height, the city is proud to work alongside you and your team on many shared priorities every day. A positive result of local control has been increased collaboration between the district and our administration. One example of this is how we've been piloting new forms of behavioral health supports in 21 schools, and we are initiating a broader process to redesign behavioral health services in all schools. Another is the Community Schools Initiative, which was championed by Council President Clark. Our 12 community schools offer programs and services for thousands of Philadelphians, including students, families, and residents. Whether it's after-school programs, food pantries, adult education classes, or job training, we're meeting people where they are at their neighborhood school to provide services that they need. We plan to designate 5 more community schools this coming school year and 3 more by fiscal year 21, bringing our total to 20. This timeline helps us increase after-school activities and summer jobs for students within our community schools. To meet the district's academic goals, we developed a citywide out-of-school time initiative, which provides safe spaces and quality programming for kids. Next month, DHS will ask for proposals for OST programs that align with the district goals around early literacy and career readiness. And we plan to invest $1 million to further this work and to leverage the $4.4 million that the William Penn and Knight Foundations have invested in the building of quality OST system. To improve the career readiness of our students and to respond to the needs of local employers, we also plan to create a new joint office of career-connected education with the district. This will increase career exposure and job opportunities for our students and create a more seamless experience for employees to engage with the district. This budget proposes resources to enable the startup of this office and to match funds that Dr. Height will also be allocating in his budget that will also include placing an additional 10 career counselors in high schools who will support our students' career readiness. To increase the amount of quality summer jobs available for our high schoolers, we plan to invest an additional $1 million per year and to expand dual enrollment programs that give students the chance to earn college credits while they're still in high school. We plan to increase support for our community college by $1.3 million a year, bringing the total to nearly $34 million. This funding increase will also enable the college to continue important programs like Power Up Your Business, a neighborhood-based approach championed by Councilmember Parker to support small business owners. And for our youngest learners, we'll grow Philadelphia Pre-K to serve 3,300 3- and 4-year-olds next year and 5,500 kids by the year 2023. We all know that participation in quality pre-K helps our kids gain skills that last a lifetime, but it also helps their parents return to the workforce. And it helps our pre-HL pre-K providers, most of which are minority or women-owned small businesses, improve the quality of their programs and pay their teaching staff higher wages. While education has always been our administration's top priority, this budget ensures that economic growth is inclusive and benefits all Philadelphians. Thanks to the leadership of Councilmember Squilla, we are taking an important step to ensuring our own workforce earns a living wage by gradually raising the minimum wage of city workers and contractors to $15 an hour. This budget includes over $14 million to account for these increases over the next 5 years. We'll also start compensating our summer interns in the mayor's internship program, because we know that too often unpaid internships can undermine diversity and inclusion by shutting out people from underrepresented communities. The plan adds almost $5 million for workforce development initiatives that help prepare our residents for family-sustaining jobs. These include the City as Model Employer Initiative that hires individuals who face barriers to employment and helps our government build a more diverse and talented workforce. The Mural Arts Guild program, which gives youth and adults who have been engaged with the criminal justice system the opportunity to give back to their communities while developing professional skills and earning a wage. And the Greater Philadelphia Technology Industry Partnership, led by the Office of Workforce Development, working in partnership with more than 15 employers to develop a comprehensive approach for connecting Philadelphians to the tech industry. This is one of the 3 industry partnerships launched or expanded with Philadelphia Works and partners this year. We're also working to launch a transparent data system that tracks workforce development metrics and progress across a common set of measures. To better support the small business that employs a large portion of our city's labor force, we're expanding supports on commercial corridors and grants for CDCs. This is the kind of support our business community that has long been championed by Councilmember O. Plus, more resources will be dedicated to our ongoing business attraction work, including the Philadelphia Global Identity Project, an effort to elevate Philadelphia's international presence and develop shared marketing messages and materials for the city to attract business capital and talent. All this is being bolstered by a $3.7 million increase to the commerce budget over 5 years. The complaint I hear most often from our residents, and I'm certain you hear it as well, is about the condition of our streets. Our constituents will be pleased to hear that our administration is committing to improving Philadelphia roadways. Over this 6-year capital program, more than $200 million will be invested in reconstruction and resurfacing of city streets, allowing the Streets Department to repave 131 miles of streets annually by fiscal year 23. This is the largest single investment in the capital program, accounting for almost 1/5 of the total capital program, and will enable residents and visitors to notice a dramatic improvement in the quality of our streets. We'll also continue implementing Connect, the strategic transportation plan that we've unveiled this past year. Connect makes clear, if we are to thrive as a city, we must take steps to ensure that growth benefits the lives and daily experience of all of our residents, especially those who have been historically underserved and who live in neighborhoods that have been disconnected from jobs and opportunities. This major transportation investment includes traffic safety improvements that are part of Vision Zero, ADA ramp reconstruction, traffic control and signal modernization, restoring historic streets, Roosevelt Boulevard improvements, a high-quality bicycle network, and much more. To further promote traffic safety, we created for the first time in our city's history neighborhood slow zones. Slow zones are clearly marked sections of residential streets where speed limits will be posted at 20 miles per hour and traffic calming tools like speed cushions are installed. This leads me to another one of our major neighborhood revitalization projects, Rebuild. Through Rebuild, we are making a historic investment of hundreds of millions of dollars to restore our recreation centers, playgrounds, and libraries that have been neglected for decades. The capital program continues the multi-year $48 million pledge, as well as 3 borrowings made possible by the Philadelphia beverage tax to complete everything from small projects like fixing leaking roofs and replacing boilers to multi-million-dollar renovations. These investments will revitalize our community facilities so residents no longer have to put up with the conditions they've dealt with for decades. Since the Pennsylvania Supreme Court upheld the beverage tax in July, we've been full steam ahead with Rebuild. We completed the first borrowing, celebrated our first groundbreaking, and are launching new projects across the city. And we remain committed to our diverse hiring goals, championed by Councilmember Parker, so people of color can benefit from the construction work made possible by Rebuild. While Rebuild supports capital improvements for recreation centers and libraries, I'm committed to their operations as well. We plan to increase support for the Free Library of Philadelphia so all of our neighborhood libraries can provide 6-day service. Another area where we worked together toward a shared goal was on maintaining housing affordability. As a result, we're dedicating $80 million to the Housing Trust Fund over 6 years to implement the city's first comprehensive housing action plan. Through this plan, made possible because of Councilmember Sanchez's leadership, we'll be able to provide greater protections for our most vulnerable residents and preserve affordable housing. We will help families buy their first home, homeowners avoid foreclosure, and renters avoid eviction. Housing stability is critical to maintaining a high quality of life, but so is investing in our health. And thanks to Councilmember Bass's advocacy, the city has taken action to improve health outcomes for all Philadelphians. We'll continue this momentum by making new investments in the programs through the Department of Public Health to prevent asthma in children, address our city's obesity epidemic, and promote healthy neighborhoods. We will expand support for families with new babies and improve walkability and the safety of low-income housing. And we will open a new city health center to better serve residents of North and Northeast Philadelphia, a shared priority of Council Members O'Neill and Taubenberger. Improving public safety is another key aspect of building a strong future for Philadelphia. Police Commissioner Richard Ross has done a stellar job of instituting many police reforms that have not only benefited the force, but also the public it serves. But I know he agrees with me when I say there's no way we can create a safe and just city without addressing the intractable issue of gun violence that still plagues our city. It cuts lives short, destroys families, and sows fear in law-abiding residents. As Council Members Johnson and Jones know well, gun violence disproportionately impacts men and boys of color. They, along with Council President Darrell Clark, have been speaking this truth for far too long. We cannot police our way out of this problem, and there's no magic solution that can solve it. Recognizing that this is unacceptable and we need to take a new approach, our Office of Violence Prevention recently released the Philadelphia Roadmap to Safer Communities, the city's first comprehensive citywide anti-violence strategy in over a decade. The roadmap focuses on prevention, intervention, enforcement, and reentry. By taking a public health approach to gun violence, we have developed strategies to address the underlying factors that contribute to the violence in our communities. We plan to invest over $30 million over the 5-year plan to implement this roadmap, and we'll build on our administration's successful criminal justice reforms by improving reentry programs and establishing the Office of Reentry Partnership in the Managing Director's office. This office will support successful reintegration of formerly incarcerated individuals to thrive in their communities. As part of the new roadmap to safer communities, we will improve analytical capacity and technology to implement the police department's Operation Pinpoint strategy. Create an injury prevention unit within the Department of Public Health that's focused on gun violence prevention. Establish neighborhood resource centers to provide those on probation with the supports they need to succeed. This effort wouldn't be possible without the partnership of the courts and the leadership of Councilmember Jones. We'll build an infrastructure for synchronized hotspot activities that combines intelligence-based policing and supportive social services. Our community-targeted impact grants to provide more support to community-based violence prevention programs serving individuals at a high risk of violence. Expand the city's community crisis intervention program to ensure teams are available in communities that experience high rates of gun violence. And enhance greening of vacant lots and sealing vacant homes in high-risk neighborhoods. We're committed to doing this right, so we'll be continuously evaluating our efforts. We'll, like the Resilience Project, we'll assess what's working and what isn't, and we'll change course appropriately when needed. To further improve public safety, this budget includes additional investments in our police and fire departments, priorities urged by Council Members Heenan and O'Neill. These include 50 new police officers and more body-worn cameras, enough for every officer by this coming fiscal year. Our capital budget calls for investments in police facilities, including the Police Administration Building, new facilities for the 22nd and 2nd Police Districts, with substantial renovation to the 15th Police District, and making necessary improvements to the Police Academy training facility. This year, the Fire Department is expected to choose a site for a logistics hub, creating a central location for vehicle storage and training. Fire stations will be renovated and new commercial laundry equipment will be installed. Over the next 5 years, 7 companies will reopen across the city. New apparatus will be procured to serve these new companies, as well as replace older equipment for engine, ladder, and medic companies. These investments will help Commissioner Teal and his team continue to improve response times, better protect property, help save lives, and keep our firefighters safe. This year, brought both progress and continued challenges as we battle the opioid crisis. While the Kensington section of the city has borne the brunt of it, we know that drug addiction, homelessness, and related issues are happening citywide and have drained public resources for years. So in October, we launched the Philadelphia Resilience Project, a new coordinated response by over 35 departments and agencies that is building off the important groundwork of the Mayor's task force to combat the opioid epidemic. The Resilience Project is focused on 7 areas: cleaning major encampments, improving public safety, reducing street homelessness, reducing trash and litter, reducing overdoses, and increasing access to treatment and increasing community response. So far, we cleared the last of 4 large encampments humanely. In fact, more than half the residents of the encampments accepted housing or services. We've also developed ways to prevent new encampments from forming. Just as important as the safety of the residents of that community, we work with local schools and volunteers to create safe corridors for children walking to and from school. We've expanded the police-assisted diversion program into the East Division, which provides those with minor drug and other offenses the opportunity to get help rather than be arrested. We've also expanded housing options and improved access to treatment. And to beautify the neighborhood, we've held 4 major cleanups spanning hundreds of blocks, removing 275 tons of trash and debris and more than 300 abandoned vehicles. We installed needle drop boxes and launched a new program called the Kensington Initiative for Needle Disposal, or KIND, that has removed over 3,000 discarded needles from the streets while employing people who suffer with addiction. We've distributed thousands of doses of Narcan to prevent overdoses and prevented the spread of infectious disease. We created a community advisory committee and engaged civic associations and residents and the business community to join us in this work. We could not do it without the support and input of Councilmember Sanchez and Squilla. No council districts have been more impacted, and their partnership has been invaluable in this fight. Because we know the Resilience Project is on the right track, this budget calls for $7.6 million this coming year, or $36 million over 5 years, so we can achieve our long-term goals. For example, the plan adds $26 million over 5 years to the Office of Homeless Services budget to provide the emergency, temporary, and long-term housing needed to reduce the number of people who are unsheltered. Additional funding is dedicated to the Department of Public Health for a toxicologist at the Medical Examiner's Office. And $6.5 million over 5 years is provided to the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services for community outreach, recovery housing, and supports for expanded syringe exchanges. The opioid crisis is not just a Kensington problem, it's a Philadelphia problem. The city and partners have taken action to stem this epidemic by educating the public, reducing opioid prescribing, improving access to treatment, and holding opioid manufacturers and distributors accountable. It's my hope that I can stand before you in future years without needing to propose further investments, because we stem the tide of the underlying causes of these systemic issues. We also hear residents loud and clear about how clean this city is or isn't. This budget includes $2.3 million next year and $11.7 million over the life of the plan to implement street sweeping in more neighborhoods. We'll launch a pilot program in 6 neighborhoods this spring that will test a combination of mechanical brooms and blowers. Next spring, we will continue to explore the program and, where possible, ask residents to move their cars as we work to keep streets clean. Many of the investments that we are proposing come because the city ended the last fiscal year with a strong fund balance. We are also being prudent, so we are proposing to deposit $92 million of fund balance money by the end of the plan into the rainy day fund in case of emergencies or an economic downturn. We're seeing signs that we're turning the corner in the health of the pension fund. The fund grew in the past year, meaning we saw more contributions than payouts. Let me say it again. We saw more contributions than we paid out money. This is a result of our reforms, including increased contributions from city workers, the implementation of a new hybrid benefits plan that we negotiated in labor contracts, and contributing more than we're required to do under state law. We're doing our part in addition to asking our employees to do theirs. We thank all our municipal unions, whose leaders are in the chamber today, for stepping up. Fixing the fund won't be easy, but we're headed in the right direction, so I want to thank them all. While the city's property assessment system has made great strides since AVI, we have heard the concerns that you voiced and raised in your audit. Our administration is committed to continually look for ways to improve and best reflect changes in the market. OPA is adopting a series of a dozen substantial recommendations that I'm convinced will ensure public confidence in the assessments in the future. Another way this budget invests in Philadelphia is empowering each of us to stand up and be counted. We will meet the state's mandate of having secure voting machines in place for the next presidential election. And as Councilmember Green has urged, we will make sure every Philadelphian is counted in Census 2020 to help all Philadelphians get an official ID, something we all need. We'll soon launch the PHL City ID program. These efforts to make government work better may sound boring to the average person, but I'm sure you agree with me that's often the most rewarding part of our work. You know, on a related note, this might actually come as some shock, but some people think that I don't really enjoy being mayor. It probably has a little something to do with my overly expressive face. You've heard the saying, wear your heart on your sleeve. Well, I've come to learn that I literally show my emotions on my face. The truth is, I do love my job. I'm frustrated often by where we are because I can see our tremendous potential. I get frustrated by our persistent intergenerational poverty. We know that at least a quarter of our residents are struggling to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. It's simply unacceptable that our neighbors are unable to meet their basic needs. But then I go to my weekly school visit, which always makes me feel better. At Dobbins CTE High School, one of our community schools, I hear about a job training program through Philly Works and Unite Here that's preparing adults in the community for guaranteed union jobs, earning at least $15 an hour. I'm frustrated that despite a relatively low unemployment rate and job growth that outpaces the national average, our median income actually dropped in 2017. But then I think of the international companies like Wuxi AppTech that continue to invest in our city and bring more high-wage jobs here, and local leaders like La Colombe and Jefferson that have stepped up to pay all of their workers a living wage. I also get frustrated when I read reports of drug overdoses or spikes in homelessness like we experienced last August. But then I go to a Resilience Project cleanup with over 100 volunteers working to revitalize their neighborhood. They remind me that Philadelphians are resilient, and together we will overcome the opioid epidemic. I'm frustrated when I meet with people who are dealing firsthand with the ravages of gun violence. Mothers burying their children, kids growing up without a parent, communities torn apart. It weighs on me heavily, like I know it does for all of you. But then I get to go to a PHL pre-K program, and I'm reminded how perfect our 3- and 4-year-old babies are. Everything we're doing to invest in their education will pay off for them, and I know they'll be more likely to make healthy choices as they get older. You get my point. I'm often frustrated by the challenges we face, but it's not because the problems are too big to solve. Frankly, it's just the opposite. We already have what we need to make Philadelphia a city that works for us all. And I know that this budget and plan will help us achieve the 2024 vision that I described earlier. I look forward to continuing to work alongside you to make Philadelphia the shining example of what a diverse, inclusive, and prosperous city this can be. And I thank you very much for your hard work. God bless you.
Okay, just to the colleagues, to everybody, I know I know the colleagues know. Folks, as you leave, can you please be a little quiet, because we do have to adjourn the council session officially. So the members need to stay in their seats. As people leave, we got to adjourn. All right, I'm going to ask everybody who is not a council person to please remove yourself from the floor, council. Okay, if anyone is going to leave, please leave so we can conduct. If you're going to stay, you have to be quiet so we can conclude our council session. Thank you for your cooperation. This part will be a little anti-dramatic, but it's a part of what we have to do. We're assuming we don't have any speeches on behalf of the minority. No speeches on behalf of the majority. There being none, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 14th, 2019, at 10 a.m.
Thank you. This moved in. Probably second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 14, 2019 at 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.